Hi everyone, Brendan Brannigan here to review the long-awaited new Lil Wayne album, The Carter 5. So, at long last, 6 years after its initial announcement in 2012 and 4 years after it was meant to be released in 2014, Lil Wayne, finally freed from Birdman and Cash Money Records, has just now released one of the most anticipated and long-awaited albums in hip-hop ever, The Carter 5. Lil Wayne, arguably the most significant rapper of the Blink era, and frequently mentioned in top tens, and for a brief period of time in the 2000s, which obviously I was around for, was regarded by many as the greatest rapper of all time, or at least the greatest alive. His influence and impact is very difficult to overstate. So however you want to phrase it or spin it, we're undoubtedly talking about here one of the most influential and well-respected artists in the genre's history, for sure. Especially when you take into consideration the current wave of trap rappers and so-called mumble rappers who have been at the forefront of not just hip-hop but of popular culture over the past few years. And this is actually something that Lil Wayne pulls from just starting off on the album on the opening track here, Don't Cry, which features the late XXXTentacion, one of the most, I suppose, impactful artists of the past few years for sure. And this song is fittingly reflective of the themes of mortality and I suppose what you leave behind. The perspective that Wayne approaches this song from is very sincere and down to earth. And as anyone who's familiar with Lil Wayne will know, Lil Wayne shot himself at the age of 12 and has struggled massively with drug addiction and the deterioration of his health as a result of it, having seizures and all sorts, and to many people seeming to be almost dying in front of our eyes, as blunt and as morbid as that may seem. But this is something that's a very real threat, especially in hip-hop recently, in the, I suppose, the landscape of everything going on, when you take into account not just the passing of X, but also the passing of artists such as Lil Peep and of Mac Miller. Many artists just unnecessarily losing their lives, and it's certainly not far-fetched to imagine that Lil Wayne could well have been one of those people. When you take into consideration the voice clip which actually precedes this song from Lil Wayne's mother, who appears on the album cover here, it's actually a very tasteful and emotional beginning to the album, and addresses topics that I think many fans would have wanted to be addressed. Lil Wayne approaches so much of this album with an honesty and sincerity, and this is an honesty that I think many fans will be appreciative of. Especially considering all of the drama, I suppose, that surrounded Lil Wayne, and that has led to this album not being released until 6 years after it was initially announced. And that's not to say there's any lack of the braggadocious rap that we'd expect from Lil Wayne. This album is chock full of songs like Problems, Uproar, Hitters, and Open Safe, which see Wayne rapping really tightly over these moody trap beats, with all the same charisma and technical ability that we know Lil Wayne possesses, but maybe hasn't really shone through with, particularly in the latter stages of his career, as the consequences of his lifestyle have largely overshadowed this. But it really does seem as if Wayne has managed to overcome this and is in a far better place now than he was not too long ago. And he certainly doesn't shy away from this topic on the album, referencing it on many songs such as Famous, which actually features Wayne's daughter Regina Carter on the hook. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the few moments on the album that I don't really feel sticks the landing. The overly glitzy and quite distant hook doesn't really have any emotional potency to it. It feels very over the top and not actually very impactful at all, to be honest with you. I feel like as a result of this, the song kind of drags somewhat, but I do like what Wayne's talking about on here. Can't Be Broken is a really great track on here, which sees Wayne rapping about how he won't allow his will and what he's achieved to be, well, you know, broken. I really love the beat on here, as well as the suitably attention-grabbing hook. But none of this really distracts from Wayne, who definitely takes center stage on the track. Dark Side of the Moon is also a very sweet and quite emotional song on here. I really love Nicki Minaj's contribution to the song. It's a definite highlight, and I think that what she brings to the track, she almost herself distracts from Lil Wayne, as she is very much, I suppose, the driving force on the song. Now, Mona Lisa featuring Kendrick Lamar is a song which has been spoken about massively since the release of this album. It sounds like a song from T-Pab era Kendrick, with the way he's rapping on here and with his vocal inflections. Both artists string together this narrative of a deceitful woman who poses as Kendrick's girlfriend in order to stage a robbery on him alongside Lil Wayne. Both are excellent on the track, and it's a really great moment on the album. It's also quite nice to hear some, I suppose, previously unreleased Kendrick material from around the To Pimp a Butterfly era. Unfortunately, the next song on the album, What About Me, is by far my least favorite. It's just this really insufferable auto-crooning from Lil Wayne and Sosa Man. It goes on far too long. It's totally filler and it's not very Cash Money. Dope Guys featuring Snoop Dogg is a really great song. Instrumentally, it certainly pulls from that old school West Coast hip hop vibe, and Snoop sounds amazing on here. It's just a shame he didn't make a larger contribution to the track. Demon is another moment on here where Wayne looks at his struggle with addiction, and it's a very enjoyable moment on the track listing, even if there's some very corny bars on here. Dope New Gospel reminds me massively of a Drake song, specifically something he would have done maybe on Views, which obviously makes sense considering that Drake was very much, I suppose, a prodigy of Lil Wayne and of Cash Money. So again, that would make sense, but I can't help but notice that a bit when I'm listening to the song. This isn't really a surprise. Wayne carries the song well and it's pleasant enough. Used To is the penultimate track on here. It sees Wayne going in hard as fuck. He shows so much contempt on this song, and he carries it all by himself over this really great beat from Metro Boomin, which allows Wayne to just, again, take center stage and use his charisma and technical ability to carry the song through, which he does excellently. The song ends with another vocal snippet from Wayne's mother, who pops up every once in a while throughout the album. And this leads us into the final song on the album, Let It All Work Out, which is a really, really beautiful closer to the album. And Wayne actually reveals to us on here, as was alluded to in the preceding vocal clip, that his shooting himself with his mother's gun at age 12 wasn't actually a mistake, as he had said before. Now, this is executed very tastefully, and it's done in a very powerful and emotional ending to the album, where he mentions how thankful he is to be alive today. And when you, again, take into consideration everything that Wayne's dealt with when it comes to addiction, and when it comes to a situation like that, which is very hard to grasp, I suppose, where at such a young age, he would literally attempt suicide. It's incredibly potent, and it's actually very, very emotional, even as someone who, myself, again, I wouldn't consider myself to be a Wayne fan. And again, it really links into how on this album, it really sounds as if Wayne's rapping with a purpose on here, something that has maybe been lacking from a lot of his late career output. While this album doesn't exactly have a clear concept or anything of that sort, it has many of the same emotional and thematic consistencies, and I think that the inclusion of Wayne's mother throughout the album really helps to tie it up and adds once again to the very emotional nature of the album. I think that every time you hear from Wayne's mother, it's quite powerful and certainly adds to the sense of purpose on the album. Again, this album is very, very solid, and when you take into consideration the context surrounding it, it adds to the album even more. It's very emotionally potent, and hearing Wayne in this state of mind, actually applying himself and putting out an album of this quality is really, really great to hear, honestly. Overall, I'm feeling a 7 on this album. As far as my favorite songs, I'll say Can't Be Broken, Mona Lisa, Dope Guys, Used To, and Let It All Work Out. If you've made it this far in the review, then again, thank you a lot for watching. Any likes and comments on the video would be massively, massively appreciated. If you're watching this and haven't already done that, please do that. You don't have to agree with my opinion and vice versa, but I would be interested to hear what some of you have to say about the album. And yeah, that's all I have to say, really. That's it.